32 NFL teams in 32 days, Cowboys leave Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott in limbo. Jerry Jones's decisions to not extend his head coach, quarterback, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons could prove franchise-altering for better or worse. Welcome to 32 teams in 32 days. To get us through the offseason, we'll be taking a closer look at every team in the NFL, in order of projected 2024 win totals. Up next, the Cowboys. If nothing else, at least the offseason is ending for the Dallas Cowboys. The past few months have been rough on Cowboys fans, who had to watch as owner Jerry Jones not only refuse to extend quarterback Dak Prescott, but also allowed the roster to get unquestionably worse around him. For Dallas, this was supposed to be a year where feelings were finalized on coach Mike McCarthy and opinions were cemented on Prescott. Instead, the Cowboys have left both in impossible positions. If the Cowboys finally get to their first conference title game since the 1995 season, it'll be because Prescott was brilliant and McCarthy did a masterful job, which would set up one hell of an offseason in 2025. Biggest gamble this offseason, deciding not to extend Prescott. We can talk about CeeDee Lamb's contract situation. And we can talk about Micah Parsons not being extended the second he became eligible. But the choice not to give Prescott another deal, while knowing he cannot be given the franchise tag, could prove franchise-altering for better or worse. While Prescott has deservedly been maligned at times for his playoff woes, he finished second in MVP voting last season with 36 touchdowns against 9 interceptions, throwing for 4,516 yards. If Prescott has similar numbers in 2024 and then hits free agency, there will be a robust bidding war driving his annual salary to more than $60 million. In that moment, Dallas will either have to pay more than it initially would have, or lose a top 10 quarterback. Thanks to playing the NFC East and NFC South divisions for 10 of their 17 games, the Cowboys have a manageable if not downright favorable schedule. However, they will have to survive a midseason challenge. Dallas hosts the Detroit Lions before getting an early bye. Then, it's the San Francisco 49ers and Atlanta Falcons on the road before returning home to host the Philadelphia Eagles. In Week 11, the Cowboys stay home for an interstate battle against the Houston Texans on a Monday night. For Dallas, going 2-3 or 3-2 is acceptable here, considering how easy the rest of the schedule appears to be. After a nondescript rookie campaign where Ferguson failed to post even 200 receiving yards, the 2022 fourth-round pick broke out in 23. Last season, Ferguson caught 71 passes for 761 yards and 5 touchdowns, helping lead Dallas to an NFC East crown. In the wild-card game against the Green Bay Packers, Ferguson was arguably the lone bright spot for the Cowboys, scoring 3 times. This year, Ferguson is the second option in the passing game for an offense featuring receivers Lamb and Brandon Cooks. If things go well for the third-year pro, he could join the conversation regarding elite tight ends. While Dallas didn't add anything of note this offseason, the Cowboys still have enough for Prescott to be dangerous. And if the offense can remain a top 10 unit, the defense is a group still led by Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence up front, and all-pro corners Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs in the secondary. Ultimately, this is a team that has annual expectations of grandeur even when they're unrealistic. And as owner Jerry Jones goes further into his 80s, patience is running thin. With a lesser roster than a year ago and playoff failures fresh in everyone's minds, Dallas is under enormous pressure to finally do something notable for the first time since the mid-1990s. It could prove too much to handle. Prescott is in the final year of his deal, and McCarthy's seat is piping hot. Despite individual and team success, the 2023 season was a failure after Dallas was blown out in the wild-card round by the Packers. In short, no tandem is under more pressure. The Cowboys brought back Ezekiel Elliott, who is projected to be the team's lead runner, but McCarthy expects to utilize a committee. So, While Elliott will be the first Dallas runner off the board in fantasy drafts, Dowdle should see his share of touches. And with Elliott entering his age 29 season and having a ton of punishment on his body, Dowdle could be used more often. Michael Fabiano. With Prescott in a contract year, I'll guess that Prescott plays with a mission. Not only does he have one of the best receivers in the game in Lamb, he still has Cooks and Ferguson. He had 36 touchdown passes with that trio last season, and he's exceeded this in 2 of his past 3 years. Though Zeke will get some goal line carries, I like the value for Prescott to pass for 31. ESPN analyst, no debate with Cowboys needed, the Chiefs are America's team. The Kansas City Chiefs have overtaken the Dallas Cowboys for the title of America's team in the eyes of one ESPN analyst, and it's hard to argue otherwise. This season, the Kansas City Chiefs will attempt to be the first team in NFL history to three-peat, history the Chiefs are able to chase after completing back-to-back championship runs over the last 2 years. Even with KC's dynastic run, the title of America's team continues to default to the Dallas Cowboys. One analyst thinks it's time for Dallas to pass the crown. Discussing the evergreen topic of the Cowboys' status as America's team and if Dallas should retain the title, Courtney Cronin of ESPN made KC's case on First Take. I think it's only fair, since Stephen A. Smith is not here, that the Cowboy trolling can continue with this question, Cronin said. And the answer is absolutely not, and they haven't been America's team since the last time they won a Super Bowl. You know who America's team is? The Kansas City Chiefs. In an era that has been defined by often forced parity, you've got a dynasty. We don't have dynasties in the NFL all that often anymore. The Cowboys were that back in the 90s, back when I was a toddler not even watching the NFL yet. We saw it before the Kansas City Chiefs with the New England Patriots. And we haven't seen it since. Related reading, Chiefs' current dynasty ranked 5th in past 6 decades. Cronin's point is flatly factual. The Cowboys haven't been to a conference championship game since the 1995 season. Patrick Mahomes has never not been to a conference championship game as KC's starter. What we're witnessing right now, Cronin continued, all-time greatest play from someone like Patrick Mahomes, and as you mentioned, you can throw Travis Kelce in the mix there too. What makes them America's team is the consistency in which they are winning, the ability to do it no matter how many pieces are changing in and out. The right answer here is Kansas City. Why Dak Prescott shouldn't give Cowboys a discount. Quarterback Dak Prescott holds significant leverage against the Dallas Cowboys in contract negotiations. Schefter believes that Prescott has more leverage than any other player in the league, which will lead to an extension inevitably getting done. Prescott's asking price can be justified after Trevor Lawrence signed his massive contract extension. Back during the 2021 offseason, Dak Prescott outleveraged the Dallas Cowboys front office into a 4-year, $160 million contract extension that made him the second highest paid quarterback in the league at the time. He called the front office's bluff and decided to play on the franchise tag for 2 seasons before forcing the hand of Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, into a huge contract extension. Jones and the Cowboys front office have been burned over the past several seasons in terms of extending their own players. They continue to sit back and watch the market explode after other organizations extend their players before the Cowboys do. The quarterback market in particular has grown exponentially over the past few months. Let's take a look at the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Prescott has already bet on himself once in his career during contract negotiations, and it appears that the Cowboys signal caller is taking up that same strategy heading into 2024. A few weeks ago, ESPN's Adam Schefter claimed that Prescott has more leverage than any other player in the NFL. Schefter recently explained why he believes this while appearing on NFL Live. Let's be very clear about hometown discounts as they pertain to Dak Prescott. There's not a player in football with more leverage right now than Dak Prescott. He's heading into the last year of his contract, he can't be traded, he can't be tagged. He would be out of his mind to give any type of discount. Prescott is currently on the short list of players with a no-trade clause within their current contract, meaning that they cannot trade him to another team without his approval. His contract also states that the team cannot place the franchise tag on him in 2025, as Schefter continued. He's in a position to reset the quarterback market after the season if Dallas doesn't have a deal done with him. There's no player in football with more leverage than Dak Prescott, and I would expect him to use it like a hammer, despite the fact that he wants to stay with the hometown Cowboys. Dak will indeed reset the market if the team is unable to re-sign him before his contract expires. The Cowboys will most likely be forced to extend him at some point. Due to the fact that the team has zero cap flexibility, with the extensions of stars CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons also looming over the front office. Regardless of his underwhelming playoff performances, it's difficult to imagine that there is a team out there that would not be willing to pay Prescott $60 million per year. We have recent examples of how inflated a quarterback contract can get when the player hits the open market. Trevor Lawrence is the most recent franchise quarterback to sign a massive extension, after inking a 5-year, $275 million extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lawrence's new deal pays him $55 million per year annually, tying him with Joe Burrow as the two highest-paid quarterbacks in the league. Lawrence has shown flashes of being the generational prospect that experts predicted that he would become, but his production last season wasn't in the same ballpark as Prescott's. Based on recency bias, it can be safe to say that Prescott will want his new contract to eclipse Lawrence's by a wide margin. Let's take a look at a side-by-side statistical comparison of the two quarterbacks based on the 2024 regular season. It should be noted that Prescott has been in the league much longer than Lawrence, and has more stability surrounding him within the organization. But it can be hard to blame Prescott for going with such a high asking price after having a season in which he finished second in the NFL MVP voting. Prescott will be aiming to get a deal done with the team soon, and remain the signal caller in Dallas for the foreseeable future. All statistics courtesy of Pro Football Reference and all contracts courtesy of Spotrac unless otherwise stated.